Some of the worst workout mistakes killing gains are some of the most common workout practices, so you really want to make sure you're not making any of these mistakes. What's up, you guys? It's Jordan Gatelius, and this is Zero to Hero Muscle. And today we're going to be going over the worst workout mistakes and the most terrible training techniques most guys are doing that are absolutely destroying their potential to make the most maximum gains possible. These are all super common mistakes that a lot of guys make, so stick with me till the end of this one to make sure you're not making any of them, so you can make sure you're not shortchanging yourself and wasting your time with any of your workouts, okay? And when it comes to getting the most out of your workouts, it's no different to getting the most out of anything else you do. You've just got to do it properly. It doesn't take anything out of the ordinary. All it takes is optimizing the basics, the foundational principles. It's all very, very simple. All it takes is doing enough of the right things the right way and minimizing and completely eradicating all of the wrong things and things done the wrong way. So what are those wrong workout practices you want to avoid? Well, let's get into that. First off is poor form. You never want to work out with poor, improper form. Right off the bat, this is setting you up for immediate failure on all fronts. With poor form, you're not in the most optimal position for an exercise. Improper form also opens up your vulnerability wide open to a huge increased risk of injury. So not only are you hurting your gains, you're potentially hurting yourself in the process when you practice poor form. And this could be anything from overarching your back during certain exercises, like when you're doing bench presses, instead of keeping your back straight and neutral as possible, it could be straining into a backwards lean during standing bicep curls when you should be standing straight up with just a slight bend in your knees and keeping your body as static as possible while you perform those curls. It could be swinging and using momentum during bodyweight workouts or any workout to try to help power yourself through moves instead of controlling the entire movement like you should be. Now, I'm sure you get the idea, right? But these are just a few examples out of the multitudes of poor form practices that a lot of people are making out there. And that's why a lot of people aren't making any progress with their workouts and aren't seeing any of the results they want. The effectiveness of all workouts, all exercises, and all training all starts with how you're performing them. And that all starts with performing them with proper form. If you're not using proper form, you're most likely not doing the exercise properly. Therefore, you're not going to get the results you're supposed to out of them. So if you want those results, don't do that. Don't use poor form. Never use poor form. Always be aware of your positioning during your training. Make sure you're in the right position for each exercise and that you're implementing the proper form for each workout. Once you nail that for every workout you do, you'll be way ahead of a lot of other people and you'll be getting way more out of your workouts, okay? Now, the next terrible training technique on this list is partial reps, performing quarter reps, half-assed reps. Anything short of a full rep really is killing your gains short of their full potential. Why? Well, let's just use an exercise as an example. Take the push-up, for instance. A full rep would be starting with your arms extended, taking that as close as you can towards the ground, and then pushing yourself back up to the start. That's what a full rep looks like, right? But let's say you don't perform that whole thing. Let's say you just go from the top to about halfway, maybe not even that far. When you're doing that, you're only getting an absolute minimum effect of the contraction and stretch of the push-up in that range, if any at all. The same goes for if you do that partial rep at any other point through that motion, right? You're only performing a very small fraction of the full exercise, which means you're only going to get a very small stimulation out of it, which translates to a very small, practically non-existent result out of it. You see what I'm saying now? Half-ass reps lead to half-ass results. This goes for any and every exercise. Now, if you're more of an advanced athlete who's been training a while and are using this technique as something like a finisher, like you've done a full round of full rep push-ups to failure, now you're just pumping out those partial reps to really max your muscle pumps out, then that's understandable. But I can guarantee that most people out there doing partial reps are not doing them as that sort of training technique. They're doing them as a result of poor form, as a result of ego stroking, a combo of both. Either way, it's best to avoid doing partial reps and stick to pumping out the full range of motion of every exercise, every rep, every set, every workout to squeeze out every bit of lean muscle gaining potential out of all of your training. When it comes to working out, whatever you do, you always want to do it all the way, not just half of it, not just part of it, all of it. That's how you're going to get all the benefits out of it. Now, the last thing on this list goes hand in hand with the others and pretty much brings everything full circle, and it's being an ego exerciser. Going about your training, working your ego out more than your muscles. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, oftentimes it mostly means lifting too heavy and doing exercises that are too difficult for your current skill set. Let's start off with the lifting too heavy. A lot of people are lifting way more than they should be during an exercise, and it's very easily recognizable when you take the last two poor training techniques into account. You'll see guys trying to push weight that's way too heavy for their own good. It compromises their form and they start contorting their bodies, struggling and straining to get that weight up. And by the end of it, they've only performed a partial rep. I know you've seen this, you've probably done this before. Don't do that anymore, okay? Stop being an ego lifter. Stop lifting too heavy. Now, don't confuse lifting heavy with lifting too heavy, because lifting heavy has its place in working out and building lean muscle mass. It's a big part of it actually, but it's when you start lifting too heavy that it hurts you more than it helps you. This is because when you go too heavy, like I just said, it compromises your form. You're opened up to a higher risk of injury. You're no longer in the most optimal position to perform the exercise. You're most likely not even performing that exercise properly, and you're not going to get anything good out of it at that point. How heavy you need to go is going to vary from person to person. It's only relative to how challenging that weight is for you. So just because you see a bigger guy in better shape pushing 100-pound dumbbell presses doesn't mean you need to be pushing that same weight to get into the same shape. Maybe 70-pound dumbbell presses would be plenty sufficient for you to get there. You don't get there just by pushing heavy ass weight. You get there by progressively overloading. So instead of going stupid heavy all the time, start off with weights that are challenging enough for you, where you could pump out 6 to 12 full range reps with proper form. And once that becomes less challenging and you get stronger, increase the weight and just continuously follow that process of progressive overload. That's all there is to it. You'll know a weight's too heavy when you're not able to pump out the full range of motion of reps within that 6 to 12 rep range, and you're struggling to maintain proper form. So if that's happening, drop your ego, dial back the weights, and do it properly. And like I mentioned, this doesn't just end at weightlifting. It also goes for body weight workouts. You don't want to be an ego exerciser for those either. If you're struggling to do pull-ups properly, don't do them improperly by swinging and flailing around. You're going to hurt yourself and you're just wasting your time if you expect to get anything out of them that way. Drop the ego and go through the progression. Start with assisted pull-ups, whether that's by machine or by using resistance bands. Build up your strength progressively that way until you don't need them anymore and are able to do them all on your own power. It's when you drop your ego in your training that you're actually able to build true power, true strength, and make real gains in every department. And that's it. Those are the 3 absolute worst ways to work out that are gonna lead to the worst results possible. So if you don't want that to happen to you, don't make these mistakes in your training. Stop working out with poor form. Stop doing partial reps and stop being an ego exerciser. These things are not helping you at all. They are completely hurting you, hurting your gains, and could potentially hurt you in the process. So now that you know all the worst training mistakes to avoid and all the best techniques to do instead, it's time to start getting all the best out of your training possible. So get out there and go do it. And for even more superhero training tips and tutorials, make sure to check out the rest of the channel for dedicated muscle building and weight loss videos and playlists to help you stay on track with your transformation. And remember, you can't make that happen by just working out. No workout is good enough to do that. There's no competition for solid nutrition. So make sure to subscribe to our nutrition and dieting channel, The Super Vegan, where we cover everything about food for fitness and all the best foods to eat for building the best body. And to get fully structured and complete training programs, head over to our official website to find the right one for you. For all the best ways you could be supersizing and super shredding your superhero physique for the ultimate zero to hero transformation. If you enjoyed this training video, make sure you Hulk smash that like button. Share the video to share the gains and help someone else out and keep the Super Squad growing. Leave some comments below about what you'd like to see covered in future training. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any future zero to hero transformation tips. Always remember, Super Squad, you want to look like a superhero, train like a superhero, and I'll see you next time.